All right, everybody, what's happening? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Visual with me, advertising lifestyle photographer Mark Hansen. This is the podcast where I talk to all those people responsible for the pictures and videos you see out in your world every single day. And today, my guest is Muzam Agha. Muzam is the photo director at Real Simple and also the owner and executive producer at Muzam Productions. This dude has had an interesting career in this business so far. He's worked at Martha Stewart Living for a long time. He's working at Real Simple now. His first job actually was as an intern at Glamour magazine, where his first shoot was with Beyonce. Then we talk all kinds of stuff. We talk about a John Legend shoot that he did, where he tells us a little bit about what John Legend was like to shoot with, because nobody knew who John Legend was at the time. So this before John Legend became famous. We also talk about Kylie Jenner wanting to take her clothes off on a shoot. Just kept asking if she could take her clothes off. Maybe I should have started out with that one. We also talk about Martha Stewart planning her own wedding for a magazine that asked her to plan her own wedding in black and white. And during the production meeting, Martha told everybody a little something about her that nobody knew. So definitely check that out. We talk about Muzam being a ghost hunter and what he has experienced as a ghost hunter. So that's cool. And also about a green church in Hawaii and what he had to do that he was really uncomfortable about doing to get that church as a location. So check this one out. Enjoy it. Thumbs up it, like it, subscribe to it, comment on it, all that kind of stuff. Let me know what you think, and look forward to hearing from you guys. Okay, so we're getting into this thing. Where did you grow up? Have you always been like a New York kind of guy, or did you come from someplace else and then end up in New York? How'd that happen?
I feel like I've been in New York my entire life. After you pass a certain point, you're just like, I'm a New Yorker and I know no other place ever existed. But I was born in London. I lived there till about 5 or 6. And then my family moved to Florida, down in Miami. I know, big change.
Okay,
And so
why?
why? I don't know. We had family here and there were like
Okay,
some business opportunities. So we just like moved over here.
okay.
And it was such a culture shock for us though,
Oh, I
because
bet.
like being like Pakistani in a Western world of like England is one thing, but then moving to like South Florida and then
Which
having
is
a British
basically
accent.
Cuba. Yeah.
Yeah. And then having like a British accent on top of that. And then it was just like we didn't fit in anywhere, you know?
So basically, a British Pakistani living in South Florida, which is more or less Cuba.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
so that's an interesting kind of fit, I would say,
It was
for
cool
sure.
because it was a true melting pot down there.
Yeah.
So like there was a lot of diversity and culture and flavor. And so that like kind of paved my way into the way that I think now in terms of like diversity and inclusion. It's just like it's just second nature to me because it's A, who I am, and B, it's what I grew up with. So
Right.
when all these things started happening, I was just like, why is this even a question? You know what I mean? It should just be the norm.
I have determined that anything like this, whether it's the inclusion, diversity, race, whatever, it all comes down to fear
Right.
on the other side. I think it's like the white people are fearful
Right.
of anybody that's non-white taking over their power and taking over their jobs or
Right.
whatever it is, even the jobs they don't want, which I don't understand. I mean, there are even jobs that some of these guys are like, I'm not doing that, and then they're
Yeah.
still pissed off. So I don't get it,
Yeah.
all the way around. But I guess it's just the way it is
Yeah.
at the moment.
I
But
know. Yeah, totally.
so okay, so you grew up in Miami. What happened after that? So take me to the process of how you ended up in New York doing what you do.
If you really want to know the nitty gritty of it, okay.
Yes, I
So it
want to hear it
started
all.
when I was like, this is like a crazy story actually. It started when I was like a young boy at like the age of 8, and my mom basically forced me to watch a Bollywood movie with her. And this movie, like, if you know anything about Bollywood movies, they are like so out of the, or like they're so over the top, right?
Yeah.
And the storylines are just ridiculous. And this particular story was like this guy married this woman who was kind of considered the ugly duckling, but he ultimately just wanted her for her money. And so like he married her, made her like did the whole thing. And then a few months into their marriage, he throws her into an alligator pit, and she gets eaten by alligators. But no one knows this. She survives, goes to a plastic surgeon, and comes back as a beautiful Bollywood actress, right? It's a beautiful woman. And then she like goes to this modeling agency. And mind you, in the beginning of the story, she had gone to the modeling agency aspiring to be a model with her quote unquote ugly duckling face, and they just laughed at her and sent her on her way. Well, now she came back and they were like, oh my God, you're gorgeous. And they booked her as like one of their top models. And so in that movie, I saw all these scenes where there were like these flashing lights and this model doing all these poses and the glitz and the glam. And I was just like, this is amazing. Like, I was just like, I was so enamored by the whole thing. And I just knew at that age, I was just like, I want to be involved in this, whatever this is, I want to be a part of it at some point in my life. And so that kind of just like led me to where I am over the course of the years to like follow that dream, you know, and get to where I am there.
Damn. So all because of a Bollywood movie that your mom forced you to watch.
Yes. I was like, this is incredible.
That's very cool. So did you go to school for anything? Or did you just pack it up and go to New York?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I was doing like, I did like also like the high school and a little bit of college here and there, but I was sitting in class and I was just like, you know, this really isn't for me. This isn't what I want to do. Like, I can sit here and do this well. I was just like, but I just want to be in it. Like, I didn't want to sit through years and years of college and have like loads of debt and then end up probably in a job that has nothing to do with what I want to actually do. I just wanted to do like the baptism by fire. I wanted to get in some way, somehow, and make that happen for myself. So from Miami, my brother had moved to Orlando to start a business. And I was just like, okay, Orlando is 4 hours north of Miami. So that's 4 hours closer to New York, because I had visited New York at the age of like 12. And I knew that I wanted to like live in New York because I think it kind of reminded me of London a little bit with the city vibe. Yeah. And so I was just like, at age 12, I was like, New York is where I'm going to be. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, 4 hours is closer to New York. 4 hours closer to New York, I'm going to go there. So I lived with him for a couple of years. And then my sister moved and relocated to Philadelphia. And I was just like, okay, that's a smaller scale city. It's even closer to New York. I'll test this city out for a short period of time, see if I can cut it in a city environment, and then I'll move to New York. And so then I moved to Philadelphia and I lived with my sister for a few years there. And that city was just way too small for me. Like, I just, if I could stretch it out a few more miles on either end, it'd be great, you know? And so eventually I moved to New York, and I didn't have a job or anything.
I was going to say, did you have anything lined up? How'd that work out?
No, I didn't. I had some money saved up, and then I kind of like started applying at like retail jobs because I had a lot of retail experience. And so I was doing that. I got a job in a handbag store selling handbags to women on Madison Avenue, you know, and that's basically, it wasn't a bad gig. When you get commission off of every sale that you make, you know, it's like, it's pretty lucrative. And like randomly this one woman came in and she was looking at the display cases that we had there. And she pulled up like this small alarm clock and she was like, oh, this would have been amazing for our accessories story. And my ears perked up. I was just like, oh, accessory story for what? And she was just like, oh, I work at Glamour magazine. And I was just like, oh, I was like, do you guys have the contact? I was just like, do you have the contact for the photo director there? And she was just like, yeah, I can. I was just like, I really want to get into this industry. And I just want to send her an email and introduce myself and see if there's an internship possibility. So she was like, sure, no problem. She pulled out her business card and then wrote the photo director's email on the back of the business card and handed it to me. And at the time at Glamour, it was Suzanne Donaldson. Okay. And so I held on to that card for like a week before I just sent a blind email, right? And I was just like, okay, so I want to be an intern. I'm not in school. I'm like 22 or 23 at that point. It's like way past that intern age, you know? I'm just like, I really want to get my foot in the door in this industry. Is there any way that you can help me? And she responded with this really nice email. She was just like, oh, well, we typically only give internships for college students, but I'd be happy to meet you. So I was just like, okay. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, how do I interview for this? I have no idea. Like, I'm like super nervous. So I would take pictures. Growing up, I was like the kid with the camera around my neck, right? All of high school, I was part of yearbook. I was part of like a newspaper, taking pictures. I feel like so many people on your former podcast had like very parallel stories to that. And so I related to those a lot. And so I was just like, oh, let me print out my like amazing photos and put them in a portfolio. So I went to like, I don't know, Staples and bought one of those like, those like portfolio binders that are really crappy, you know, like fake leather. And I went to like, I don't know, a copy shop and printed like these big pictures of like these photos that I thought were amazing. And I put them in this portfolio, and I walked in there super proud and super like excited and thinking that like I'm the best thing that's going to walk through their doors and they're going to love me, right? So I get there and I'm talking to Suzanne, and she was amazing and super warm, welcoming, and very like helpful in terms of like guiding me in terms of like what it meant to be in this career and different things of that nature. And so then I presented like my portfolio, and she's looking through the pictures. She's like, oh, this is so great. Okay, whatever. And then like she sends me on my way. And then a day later, I get called back by her, and she was just like, hey, we'd like for you to meet our photo editors too. I was just like, yeah, okay. So here I go with my cheap faux leather portfolio back to the Condé Nast building in time when it was like close to Times Square at that point. And I meet with these two photo editors, and I show them my portfolio, and I just got along really well with them. And then I left, and a few days after that, Suzanne calls me, and she was just like, hey, listen, so we can't really offer positions for an internship without a school credit. And I was just like, I don't care. I will go pick up coffee. I will do someone's dry cleaning. I just want to get my foot in the door. She's like, let me finish. She's like, so she's like, you're just cutting me off. Let me finish. I was like, okay. She's like, so for that reason, we're going to hire you as an intern, but we're going to pay you to do it. And I was just like, you don't have to pay me. I'll do it for free. And she's just like, no, it's illegal. I have to pay you. I was just like, oh, all right, okay, that's fine. She's like, it'll be like, it was like 2 days a week, and it was like $100 a day. I had to fill out a voucher or whatever it was. And that was pretty much it. I got my foot in the door that way. And the funniest part about the story is when I think back to that portfolio and those really crappy images, I'm like so mortified, and like it's like kind of cringy, you know what I mean? Because learning about lighting and photography and what that really is, and then looking at those images, which are so bad, had like no concept of lighting that I thought were like the best images in the world. I just always look back and I'm just like, oh God, it was so embarrassing.
Hey, it happens to everybody. I did the same thing. I remember trying to find my first agent. I contacted a person I knew and was like, hey, I need an agent. Who do you know? That, oh, you think you're ready for an agent? I was like, oh, absolutely. I look at those pictures now and go, I can't believe anybody. One agent actually spoke to me, and we're still friends to this day. But yeah, I can't believe he even entertained. I'm surprised he didn't look at the first picture and go, all right, thank you.
I know. It's just like whenever I think back at it, I'm just like, how did they even like engage with me at that point? Like I walked in there so proud with that portfolio.
Maybe it's one of those things where they see it and they see this as this is the rough, raw ingredients kind of thing, but they can see what it can be down the road, you know, with a little bit of help, a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah, it was crazy because I did that internship for I think 6 months, and I was working because I still had to keep my retail job because I needed to get my bills paid. And so I was working, I would take off Monday and Tuesday out of my regular work schedule and work those 2 days at Glamour, and then the rest of the week I was working my retail job. I feel like the only day that I actually had off was Easter Sunday when everything was like closed.
Really?
Yeah, it was around that time. And so it was crazy. It was a lot of work, but I was so excited to get up to go to work every Monday and Tuesday. It was just like the most thrilling experience of my life at that age, you know. I was like,
that part's good.
Yeah, going to photo shoots and having them call you like a black car to go there, and you're just like, I am like famous. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, it's doing all the grunt work that nobody else wants to do, like drop off jewelry to like a still life photo shoot and have to sit there all day while they shoot it, so that you just keep an eye on the jewelry. And they're sending this like 20-something-year-old kid with like a little like those yellow padded envelopes full of like all this jewelry that was like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're like, don't lose this. And I'm like, okay. I'm like holding it close to my chest, running into the car, just looking over my shoulder, thinking that everyone in the world knows that I have this jewelry and that I'm going to get mugged at any second in New York City. I was so scared.
Oh my God. So how long, what was the first shoot you did with Glamour? Do you remember?
Well, one of the most memorable shoots was when they did this issue every year, which was like the guy issue or something. And it was just like all males were covered in that issue for that month or whatever it was. And I got to produce this shoot that had the not so famous John Legend on it. Yeah, it was pretty major,
Really?
but like he wasn't major. And I remember seeing his name on the call sheet thinking, who is this guy anyway, right? There was like Josh Hartnett, which I loved. I was like, oh yeah, I know who it is.
Right.
And then John Legend, I'm like, I don't know who John Legend is. And so we get to set, and it's obviously in like this Chelsea West Village or whatever it is, brownstone. So like the floors had to be covered from like the front door out to like the backyard, you know, it's just like so intense. And then we had to make sure everything was like pristine the whole entire time. And this guy, John Legend, walks in and he's just like, where do I go? I need to get my hair cut. So he sits down and he gets like this haircut, but he's just like, oh, I don't want to get my shirt messed up. So he like takes off his shirt in front of everyone. He's just walking around shirtless, and then he just starts singing at the top of his lungs as he's walking to go get his haircut. And I'm like, this guy's a tool, man. I was like, this is dumb. Like, who is this guy? And now I'm just like, oh, right, John Legend got it. You know?
So when you started singing, did you go, at least you can sing?
I was just like, no, okay, but like that part.
Or is it one of those where you're just like, all right, come on, we get it.
I just like rolled my eyes. I'm like, all
Right.
right, guy, we get it. You're a singer. You know how to sing. You don't have to like take off your shirt and start singing to everybody. You know what I mean?
I don't see him as the kind of guy that when he takes off his shirt, everybody goes, ooh.
Yeah.
With his shirt off.
It was just like one of those weird moments where I'm just like, all right, whatever. Like, this is so lame, you know? I was just embarrassed for him. But he was
Right.
so new in his career. It was probably like, he probably thinks back on that and it's just like, oh God, what was I thinking, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, that was like one of my first shoots there, and it was pretty epic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You got the unfamous John Legend.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, that same jewelry shoot, like I get there and like, it was the most boring shoot I've ever been on my life. And I'm like, I sat on the couch and I actually fell asleep on the couch. And like the photographer and like the stylist were cracking up. They're like, check out this intern who just falls asleep on the job. That's like so not my MO, you know what I mean? And so the fact that I passed out on the couch, I woke up, got the jewelry, and I left thinking, yeah, I never want to do still life shoots. They're so boring.
I know some amazing still life photographers, and God bless them all, because I can't do it. I know,
but it's so funny because then I ended up working at Martha Stewart for 8 years, and that's like predominantly still life, you know. So it's just like you just never know where your career will lead you.
So when did you get like a full-time? Did Glamour ever hire you full-time? Or
so I was naive in the sense that I thought that if they loved me, they'll hire me. And I got along really well with everyone. And they would call me in on extra days sometimes, and I would sometimes get off from my retail job to be able to do that. And so at the end of my internship, I'm like, okay, is there a position? Can you hire me? And they were like, well, that's not how it works. We actually have to have an open role for you to fill. And I didn't understand that concept whatsoever. I was just like, why? But you guys love me, just hire me, take the position, you know? But like, I guess like a few weeks prior to that, there was this bookings editor that was out of office for a few days because she was sick, and someone was filling in for a freelancer. And I ended up having to sit next to her during the few days that booking editor was out. And we became really close. And she was only there part-time, obviously. She was filling in, and then she left, and we had like had a really good conversation and connected. And then after I left Glamour, I was like so depressed. I was just like, okay, like this is what I want to do. And now this internship's over. They didn't hire me. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I hate retail. I was just like, I started like spiraling, you know? I was like, this is not where I want to be right now. And then my phone rings, and I pick it up, and the girl's like, hi, it's Allison. I don't know if you remember me. You sat next to me when I freelanced at Glamour for a few days. I was just like, oh yeah, I totally remember. She's like, So I'm working for this Italian publication. It's called D della Repubblica. It's based out of Milan. She's like, it's a fashion weekly publication that is in their newspaper every week. I was like, okay. And she's like, they're launching a fashion publication called Velvet, and it's going to be a monthly magazine. And we do the shoots here in New York. It's basically just me and a casting director, and we need an assistant. Are you interested? And I was just like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was just like, I just jumped at the opportunity. I didn't even ask how much it was, like the salary was at that point. I just jumped at it. And then I left my retail job and I realized like, oh, I just lost 20K a year from commission. You know what I mean?
That's a huge hit.
Yeah. I was just like, I just want to be in this industry. I don't care. Like, I'm just going to do it. And so I did that that was like my first like introduction into that whole world from that sense, because not only was I doing the bookings, I was also the assistant, but I was also the fashion closet. And I was also like, oh, wow. I did everything. Yeah, I did. It was like basically a 3-person show in New York. So we did all of the shoot production, but like I was also managing that fashion closet, which is a huge undertaking of its own. You know what I mean? So like checking off carnets and like, so it was a really good introduction into the business from that standpoint, because I got a nice understanding of how it all works.
Yeah, but that helped a lot.
It really did.
Later on, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, how long were you there?
That was, I think, 2 years or maybe a year and a half. The best part about that job, I got to say, is if you ever have the opportunity to work for like an Italian company, you get the entire month of August off paid, because they take like holidays. So I was just like, this is amazing, you know? They ended up not, I mean, I was there for like a little over a year, and then I think they wanted to shut down the New York office. And so, they just didn't have space for the photo assistant, so they let me go. But what Allison did was she got me connected to a photo agency, and I ended up interviewing for them. And my background in sales and selling handbags on Madison Avenue came in handy with like selling talent now on a roster of like a photo agency. So I did that. I worked at Walter Schufer Management for a couple of years there too, but that I left. That wasn't my jam, really.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think the part about it is that you lose that creative component, right? Like while you can be involved in the shoot aspects, like I used to rep hair stylist, makeup artist, pop stylist, hair colorist, wardrobe, everything. And so so you get involved in some of those aspects of the shoot, but you're not really there producing, and you're not down in the nitty-gritty of it, and you're not going on set as much. And so I felt like I lacked that creative drive, you know what I mean? Or like, yeah. So
I could see that taking it away for sure. Yeah, because basically you just book people.
Yeah. And like basically just reach out to like every agent, like not agency, but like every magazine or every art buyer or whatever it is, trying to like sell your talent.
Yeah.
Not my jam.
I don't like it either. On my end. So I prefer to have an agent or a rep do it for me, because that is not I'd rather shoot than have to
exactly,
for sure. Do you think that helped you though later when at the magazines and all that to understand how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. Like now I know the lingo. Now I know, you know, it's like if an agent is telling me one thing, I'm like reading between the lines. I'm like, I actually know what this means. And so it's really helpful, because I can be upfront about like certain things with the agency. So then we end up building a good rapport in that way, because it's like, hold on, I'm sorry. Can you hear my Slack going?
No.
You can't hear the click.
Oh, yeah. Every once in a while.
I should figure out a way to turn that off.
I mean, it's not very long. I mean, yeah, I heard that like that. I heard.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me just see about. Okay, I just quit it, so hopefully that'll stop.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, a lot of times you hear people, you'll hear their phone going bing, you know, or text messages or emails or something coming in, and it does it the whole entire time. So,
well, the funny thing is that like it distracts me, because I'm like, oh, what is that message? And then I'm like losing my train of thought.
Oh no.
So I'm like, let me focus here.
Yeah, I have mine turned off, but it still vibrates. So I hear it vibrate off the side. All right.
Yeah.
So who's texting me now?
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I could. So when you do, we're talking about you working at the agency and helping. You can talk to them now.
Yeah.
Does how upfront are you with it? I mean, do you tell them, hey, like this is what we're really doing here? I know I'm asking you because I don't know if you do it, how much you do it at a magazine, but I know that, a lot of the triple bid kind of thing with the agencies, there are times when you know that you're the third bid,
Right.
but they don't tell you, or they're supposed
Right. Yeah, exactly.
to have the job, but you end up not getting like, what, you made me think I was going to have it. I'd rather hear, we pretty much know who we want to use
Right.
and then do this, or,
Yeah, I'm and that's how, but for me, see, I'm on the flip side is like,
yeah,
if I'm trying to ask for a hairstylist or makeup artist or something, and I'm getting like a second option, I know to be like, is this a good second? Or like, am I holding up against an ad job? Because then I'll look into other options as well. But if it's looking good for me, then I'll hold off because this is who I really want to use. And or like if it's a beauty story, but it's like a strong makeup beauty story, then I'll be like, I'll tell the hairstylist agent, I'm like, listen, there's not going to be a ton of hair, but we can do some fun styles so that there's actually a hair component in the story to make it worthwhile for the hairstylist to do. Like, I try to be open and honest in those ways.
that's great.
So that I can build these relationships, because I've been doing this for so many years that I want to be able to always go to these agents and know that they can trust me, and I know that I can trust them, and that we can be real with one another. Like, if I'm holding an option against like this major ad campaign, just tell me that so that I know to move on, because my little editorial budget is not going to compete with that. And so like, it's better for me to know that in advance than have to like sit there and wonder like, oh, am I going to get this makeup artist or hairstylist or wardrobe stylist that I want, or do I need to move on, or even photographer for that matter.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I think
Yeah.
that's great because it saves a little bit of time when everybody's in when you do that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, damn, man. Okay, so all right, I know you worked. I want to get to Martha Stewart and Real Simple, but you worked at Elle for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I did Elle for a little over a year too.
How was that?
That was crazy. It was such a fun, amazing job and opportunity, and it was exactly where I wanted to be in my career at that point. Like, I started out with the fashion background, and then I did the Martha Stewart thing, which we'll chat about, before the Elle thing. And so like, I was really excited and eager to get to Elle, because that's like really where I was like passionate and like excited to venture out into more fashion. And it was really great. Like, my first shoot that I had there was a Beyonce shoot, like the Beyonce cover shoot. And I was just like, okay, wow, this is intense. I was like so scared the entire time, I was like, please don't mess anything up. Please don't mess anything up. But like, I was new enough to where they handled the majority of like that production. And then by the next few shoots, I was just like, okay, I have a rhythm now and I get it. So, but it was great. It was just after like doing it for a year and having it be kind of repetitive in a way, I really wanted to venture out on my own and start my own thing, because I thought that I had enough chops to do it, I guess, Yeah. And so then I just started my own production company and left Elle.
How's that going?
That's
do you still
well.
do that is that still a thing you do?
Yeah, I do it here and there. If there's a shoot that comes up, or if someone needs help with casting, or just like logistics and production and things like that, I'll jump in and help. But predominantly I do Real Simple.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had one more question about Elle, then I want to go to Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
Who did you work with? Who are the photographers? Did you work with Gilles Bensimon? Was he still there, or has he moved on by that point?
Okay, so the funny thing is, I think that was like the Nina Garcia days, right? Like with Jill, when she was like at the fashion director there. And so they would shoot with him quite a bit. But by the time that I got there, we didn't shoot with Jill at all.
Oh, yeah.
And then once Nina took back over as editor-in-chief, then I started seeing his name pop back up in the rotation. So it was kind of interesting to see how like that middle section where Nina wasn't around, like Jill also wasn't around.
Yeah, I noticed he disappeared for a while.
Yeah.
For a long while.
And the funny thing is, like, we repped him at Walter Shoot first. So I saw him at Walter when I was there. Yeah, so he was repped at Walter. So
okay, do you know anything about his background, like how he got started and all that?
I remember hearing some stories here and there, but I don't quite recall what they were.
The story I heard was he was dating the dude who owned Elle magazine's daughter, and he wanted to
Oh,
be a photographer. So she got him in as a photographer. So he hired all of her Brits as assistants to do everything. And he came in and shot. And that's how he got started. And at one point, he was shooting almost everything for Elle to the point where he had to have a pseudonym so it didn't look like everything in the magazine was shot by him.
oh,
I
I
don't know
didn't
how
know
true
that.
that is. That's just a rumor I heard
That's
from people.
interesting.
So
That's so funny. I know the only thing that I really know about Jill or had experience with Jill was like having to order him a burger every time he would come into the office to chat with Walter. I sat right next to Walter and he'd be like, hey, Muzam, can you order Jill a pop burger? And I'm like, oh God, here we go. I was like, okay, I'll do it.
what's he like on his look a pop burger?
Yeah, it was like this place in Chelsea, closer to the meatpacking district, that was just called Pop Burger that everyone just loved. And every time someone would come in for a meeting, they just want a pop burger. So they'd sit and chat with Walter and eat their pop burgers.
Okay.
So random.
Then you had to go get it. All right. So tell me about Martha Stewart, man. What was how many you were there for a while, right?
I was there for 8 years.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. It's so funny because I was working at Walter Schufer and I knew that I wanted to get out of that industry and I wanted to get back into magazines. And then I saw this photo editor position at Martha and I was just like, ooh, I don't know anything about cupcakes or doilies, but I'm going to give it a shot. And like, luckily for me, like one of the photo editors there used to book one of my makeup artists. And so I already had a connection to the photo editor. So I was just like, hey, what's up with this position? I'm really interested. Here's my resume. And so then she called me in for an interview and I met with quite a few people. And then I ended up being like the photo producer there. So they filled the photo editor position, but they needed a role. And I was just like, oh, this sounds like right up my alley. And so I just jumped on as like the photo producer. And I literally thought I would just be there for a year. I was like telling my best friend, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to relate to these like Martha people. I was just like, I'm sure everyone wears like a sweater set vest thing or whatever, you know what I mean? And like pearls. I'm just like, I'm just not gonna vibe with this crowd. And when I got there, it was the most eclectic, it was the most eclectic, creative group of people that I've ever met.
Really?
Yeah, it was incredible. Like it was just like this motley crew of like all these random people that were just experts in their one field. Like we had like a collector, we had someone that just focused on crafts. There were just so many different elements of what made that magazine and that brand as a whole so amazing that when I was there, like every day was a different experience and every shoot was a different shoot. Nothing felt repetitive. I ended up getting thrown on all the publications at one point where I would produce for, like we had Whole Living magazine, which was like the more fitness and wellness, healthy eating magazine. Right. So I would produce for them. And then we had Martha Stewart Living, which is her flagship magazine. And it was more of like the home stuff that everyone knows. And then we had Martha Stewart Weddings, which had like the really creative wedding ideas, but then also had the fashion component. So we would do fashion editorials for them. And then sometimes I'd get thrown on the ad side to help produce their shoots. And so it was just like a really huge, big mesh of everything. And it was just so creatively fulfilling that I just like never left. I just stayed there for 8 years. 8 years later, I'm like, oh, I'm still here. You know, it was really crazy.
Well, God, it sounds like they kept you busy.
Yeah, they did. And it was like, and I loved going to work. And that's like the most important part, right? Like you have to get up and enjoy going to work. And just like, I got to meet the most amazing people. Like half of those people that I worked with worked there for as long as I did, if not longer. And we've all maintained friendships throughout the years up until now.
Damn, that's incredible, dude. Let's shut this down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to start someplace you think you'll be there for a year and end up there 8 years. Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So then did you go from there to Real Simple, or was there something no, you did Elle?
Yeah, I did Elle, and then I like left Elle and I did like my production company. And the funny thing is, like, as I was like building my production company and doing some shoots and starting to get my feet wet with that, I ended up someone that I worked with at Elle, who was a freelancer there, started working as a freelancer at Real Simple, and then they needed a photo editor, so they just were like, hey, we need someone for 2 months. Can you do this? And I was just like, well, yeah, that's going to be steady income for 2 months. I'll do it. I signed on, and then at the end of 2 months, I went to the creative director, and I was just like, okay, so here's where I am at with all of the shoots. this is here, this is here, this is here. And she's just like, wait, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I was just like, well, my 2 months are up. She's just like, what are you doing for the next 6? I was like, 6 months? She's like, yeah. I was just like, oh, I guess nothing right now. But I mean, I still want to, if my production company has something. She's like, that's totally fine. You can do that when you need to. But like, if you're available, let's put you on the books. I was just like, okay, let's do it. So then I did 6 months of that. And then a little while after that, they kind of just hired me full time.
The 2-month gig turned into a full-time.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, wait, I'm still here.
How many years have you been at Real Simple?
Oof, I feel like I'm going on my 4th year, maybe 5th even. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 4 years is where I'm at.
All right.
I know.
I think that says something about you when you go in for 2 months and you end up there for 4 or 5 years.
I know. And this is like another brand that's like really cool. Like the team is super cool and collaborative and creative. We kind of get to like come up with these concepts. It's not as like regimented and structured as like other brands might be, you know what I mean? Because even Martha, while we still got to create what we wanted to create, there was still like the underlying, is this Martha enough? And while we have to remain on brand for Real Simple, we still have creative liberties to kind of just do what we want in a fun and creative way, you know?
That's cool.
Visually, yeah. So
did Martha have to approve everything, like the shoots, that kind of thing, or was it
for a living? Yes, but yeah, I think she would always come at the end of every like issue that we would have and like go over the wall, and if she needs something changed. She rarely changed things, I feel, but well, not for weddings at least, but like for the living magazine, she would change some things here and there. And so it was kind of like sometimes we would have shoots in the bank for like 2 years. We would shoot something in like 2017 and it wouldn't run until 2019. I mean, granted, I wasn't there during those years, but like that's an example of like how it would be. It was so crazy. We had so many shoots in the bank.
Wow, that's crazy. So were you there when she was her and Snoop started hanging out?
I was there, like I think at the beginning of that, but then I kind of just like left before it took off as much as it did. I kind of just loved that whole. I was definitely there during the Justin Bieber roast, which was like one of the most epic things I've ever seen on TV.
I did not see that. Was she there for that?
Oh my God, it was the most amazing roast ever. Like Martha killed it. She was so like funny and inappropriate, and it was just like. It was just so good. She just like,
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, you really have to watch it. Like she killed it.
I'm assuming hopefully it's on YouTube. It was a Justin Bieber roast?
It's Justin Bieber roast, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna look that up because I want to watch that.
There was one guy that was like, got up and he's just like, all these rappers on this stage and Martha's the only one that did Hard Time.
Yeah, I still remember I saw a meme right after she got out of prison, and it was like her and Snoop Dogg beside, like in 2 separate shots, says, or maybe they were together, and it said one of these is basically is a gang member, and another one's been in prison, you know, actually been in prison or something like that.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, that was funny. I like that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the production company. What have you been, because I looked at your site, you've done some cool stuff.
Yeah, well, a lot of it because I produce for all of like the magazines that I work for. I include a lot of that on my site because while we like at Elle, we would outsource like the production companies, right? But as a photo editor, you're like predominantly the producer for the magazine, so you're working in tandem with them and doing all of the shoots and the nitty gritty and going on set and doing that. So a lot of those images include those shoots as well. But yeah, it's just I do photo shoot production and casting for any kind of like advertising or editorial. Now the editorial can't really conflict with like the Real Simple brand. So I focus more on the fashion component. And that allows me to be able to do that a little bit.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Real Simple would be happy if you were basically working for the competition. Yeah, but I think like the whole point of the production company is to not do those types of shoots, right? It's like what I really love is like those fashion and beauty elements of like this world. And so that production company allows me to do that while still like working on this magazine that I also love working for, you know? Have you gone to any cool locations? Yeah, I've gone to the south of France for it. I've done, cool. I've done Italy, like Lake Como, gone to Montauk. Ooh, fancy, right? Hey, Como, Montauk. Hey.
Yeah. There's been a few like locations that I'm just like, wow, I can't believe I'm like actually here. Like it's been mostly France and Italy, quite a bit
Wow.
for that.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And then like maybe LA, but those
But you
ones.
travel a lot too, don't you? Just personal?
Yeah, just personally, I love to travel. Like my whole like thing was like, if I'm not on a plane every 2 months, then I start going crazy. And then
Oh,
when
wow.
COVID hit, I wanted to
Yeah, I
die.
bet.
And so that was like really hard for me because I couldn't travel. So, but yeah, like personally, I just love to see the world. And it's just experiencing. See, the way that I travel is kind of different than most people. It's just because I like for work, I'll do Italy or France or Europe in that sense. But like when it's personal travel, I'll try to go off the beaten path or do something a little bit more adventurous or textural, so to speak. I love
Yeah.
like cultures and different foods and flavors and colors. And my it all started like at I was at Martha at that point, and I just gone through like a breakup, and I was like, I just need to travel somewhere by myself. And so I like went to this website, and I just went to Google, and I was like random places to travel, enter, and like this random website came up, and it's basically just a map of the world. And you can either choose to put in coordinates of like an area that you want to go, or you can just let it blind pick a place. And so I shot the dart, and the dart flew and it landed in the water, but right next to Nicaragua. And
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, huh, Nicaragua. I've never really thought about that. So I started Googling a little bit, and didn't I saw that it was a beautiful country, but didn't see much else on it. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to wait for a sign. If I see a sign about Nicaragua, I'm going to book this ticket.
Right.
I met my friend for coffee in Chelsea, and like as we're ordering, I turned around and they had like this wall of Colombian coffee, and right next to it they had a wall of Nicaraguan coffee.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, oh wow, that's my sign. And so like the next day I booked my ticket, and I literally just got on a plane. I booked a hotel the night before I left for just one night, and I was like, I'm going to wing it. I'm going to solo backpack, and I'm going to figure it out as I went along. And it was the most liberating thing that I've ever done in my life. It was so eye-opening, so scary, but so amazing at the same time. And I learned so much about myself on that trip.
That's amazing, dude.
I know.
Wow.
People always try to compare it to like Eat, Pray, Love. And I'm like, I didn't even read that book. I was just like, it's more like Leonardo DiCaprio and the beach. You know what I mean? It's more like that kind of stuff. That seems a little cooler.
Yeah. Did he do some movie where he's on the beach?
Yeah, it's called The Beach.
Oh, that's okay. Well, there it is. I knew I'd
Yeah.
seen it, but I could not remember. I just knew it was Leonardo DiCaprio. There was a beach, and I'm
Yeah, it was like so cool because he kind of did it through Thailand, which I then like replicated that trip a few years later
really.
without meaning to. Yeah, but yeah, ever since then, it's like every summer I would just do a solo backpacking trip. I did like Guatemala, I did Thailand, I did Istanbul. I just started like going to all these different places by myself, and it's just been getting better and better every time.
Where's your favorite place so far?
I would have to say Thailand.
Yeah.
It's so cool, and it's such an amazing country. Like, granted, Nicaragua is like holds a special place in my heart because it was my first one,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
I'll always say is like the most amazing, most beautiful country. But my experience in Thailand was just, it was such a long trip. It's kind of funny because it was like right as I was leaving Martha to go to L, like I had not used up all my vacation time, so I had like the entire end of the year. Plus, we get the time off between Christmas and New Year, so I was there for like basically 4 weeks, and I was just like hopping around the entire country. I was on planes, boats, trains, whatever it was, whatever mode of transportation there was. I was
Sorry.
okay.
A bird literally just ran right into my window and scared the hell out of me. And I think he's,
I heard it.
yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no.
So you,
Yeah,
planes, trains, and automobiles, basically.
yeah, exactly. Any mode of transportation there was, I was doing it, and it was so cool. It was just like, it felt a little unsafe at times, just because there's like there was like these like random parties that people have. Like there's like in this one area where they do like the full moon party, but then a day or two before the full moon party is like a jungle party, and I'm like, okay, I'll go. And so like I just get in the back of a random, like it looks like an army truck with like
Oh,
the bars,
right.
and
Yeah.
there's like 25 people like piling in, and you're just like letting some random dude take you somewhere, and you just like end up in the middle of a jungle. And I'm like, am I gonna die on this trip? But then it ends up just being fine. You know what I mean? You're like there, you're doing your thing, and then you like come back and you're like, oh, that was pretty fun.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first thought was my daughter should do that, and my next thought was no, they should not do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's actually really good. Like Thailand, I feel like is one of the safer places to do that because there are so many travelers and so many backpackers, and like that community kind of really looks out for one another. Like
Oh,
you
that's
don't need
cool.
to go with a friend. You can just go stay at a hotel or a hostel or whatever it is, and or hang out at a hostel and meet like an amazing group of people, and then make your plans based on what everyone else is doing. Like if they're going on a rafting tour, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll join that. And you just pay for it. And then you meet up and you go on the bus and you just make friends for life that way. It's like super cool.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Where's the most recent place you've been?
Oh, I just came back from Costa Rica, actually.
Okay,
Yeah, that was
not
pretty fun.
bad. Yeah.
Not bad, not bad.
How fast were you on a plane as soon as you were like, all right, everybody can start traveling again?
Well, like in the middle of the pandemic or whatever, I was like, okay, well, I'm going stir crazy. Like I need to get out of here. So I went and got an antibodies test because I felt a little bit off in the beginning of March. I felt I was
Right.
like, my throat's a little off. I feel like I'm getting the chills, but I didn't get like full on sick. I had just like a little cough thing, you know? And turns out I had antibodies. And so I was just like, oh, well, now that I have antibodies, I can just put on a mask, jump on a plane and go to Florida and spend time with my family. You know what I
All
mean?
right. Yeah.
And we were all so bored, we ended up just buying a boat. We bought a boat just so we could go out on the boat during the day and like not have to like be stuck at home all day and just do it the safe way. You know what I mean? It was so random.
We were just bored, so then we went and bought a boat. You buy a big
Yeah.
boat?
It was like 19, it's the 19 footers, like a speedboat, like
Yeah. That's cool.
yeah. It's super nice. Every time I go down, I'm like, let's take out the boat.
Yeah. Very cool, man. God, I like your life.
Oh,
It
thanks.
sounds it sounds pretty cool.
It
Yeah.
sounds a lot more like interesting, I think, when I talk about it in this way than what it actually is.
Probably a lot of things like that, though.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Also,
like
when it all
Instagram.
comes down to it. So as far as work goes, what's been like your favorite project, favorite job that you've worked on?
I have to think about that for a second because there's been so many crazy shoots that I've done over the course of my career that I can't even know like I don't even know like where to pinpoint. I feel like the one shoot that we did in Hawaii was pretty epic for a different reason. It was for Martha Stewart weddings actually, and the creative director and the photographer went on a scout as one does, and
Yes.
they're driving on a highway and they see like this green church that they thought was like super interesting or fascinating. And they were like, hey, there's a green church on this. They're like texting me as they're finding things, right? Because then I have to do the work behind
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, they're like, there's this green church. The sign says Kama Lama Lama on it, and find out we want to shoot there. It's a must, like top priority. So I'm like, oh man. So then I asked the person that I was working with at the hotel if they knew what the Kama Lama Lama Church was, and they were like, no, we don't know it. So I'm having to ask everyone. And like there were people walking by. I'm like, do you know anyone at the Kama Lama Church? You know, I'm like asking
Right.
everyone and their mother about the Kama Lama Church. And I was telling them, I was just like, it's not looking good, guys. I'm like really hitting a wall. Nobody knows what this church is. Like no one, they know where it is, and but they don't know anything about like who runs it or anything. So like this, I probably spent like a good 6 hours trying to do this. And then one of our stylists, she was pregnant at the time. She needed to pick up florals from the flower shop downstairs. So I went down to the flower shop with her to help carry the stuff. And as I'm leaving, I was just like, I turned around, I'm like, by chance, like to the woman that works at the shop, I was like, do you know anyone at the Kama Lama Lama Church? And she was just like, actually, yeah, I do. It's someone that I went to high school with. They're on my Facebook. I was just like, can you reach out to them? She's like, ooh, I haven't talked to them in years. It's going to be weird. I'm just like, please, I just need some help. But it turns out we find the person who it belongs to, and my rep at the hotel reaches out to them, and he calls me back, and he was just like, so the person that owns the church is kind of like in the hospital right now. And so I was just like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. And like, to me, it's a done deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, someone's in the hospital or whatever. I send a message to the team. I'm just like, hey, just FYI, the person that runs the church is like in the hospital. So, I don't think it's a go. And they come back with, well, can you find out from the person that you found that out from if we can use, if they can ask the person if we can use the church? And I'm like, you mean like you want me to go to them on their deathbed and say, can we use your church?
Knock on their hospital door.
Knock on the hospital
Hey,
door.
excuse me.
I was like, I thought it was a joke at first, but it wasn't. It was like very serious. And so then like, I had to go back to this rep and I was just like, is there any way that you can find out if we can use this church? I felt like such an idiot. I felt so heartless doing it. And then it come to find out, like they got in touch with the daughter and the daughter was like super excited about it. She's like, yeah, fine, whatever. So they let them in, they got their shot. And I'm like, the shot better run, because it was like, it was honestly like probably 2 days worth of work trying to figure that church out. Oh. And so then when I was like, when people would look through the magazine and they're flipping through the pages of the fashion story, I'm like, no, you stop on that page and you enjoy that green church. Like you bask in that green church, because it took a lot of work. And it's so funny because people don't realize as people flip through magazines, right? They don't realize like some of the effort that just looks like a regular building that someone got like photographed in front of. Nope, that took like 2 days worth of work and a lot of heart. So,
yes.
You know,
I wonder that all the time. I see locations and shoots for movies, and my first thought is, who found that? Who spent the time to find it and then get permission to shoot at it? Because some of this stuff looks like it's just out in the middle of no place. I'm trying to figure out how these people just know where these things are and then get permission.
It's so true. Even watching movies, it's like no fun for me anymore, because I'm just like, oh, the production value of this is insane. Wow, that church, that must have been a crazy location. You know what I mean? You start producing shoots in your mind as you're watching movies. And I'm just like, oh, stop. I got to stop thinking about that.
I have to actually make myself not speak. If my wife and my daughters or whatever are around, I'll catch myself saying things about the movie or whatever. Say, did you see that? Did you see that? What do you think that happened? That, and I have to stop. But my wife, I've done it so much that my wife now is doing it to me. Like, how do you think they found that place? Or how do you think they did that shot or whatever? And I've just screwed movies for everybody in this whole house.
It's so true. And I actually use it for production. Like there was this one horror movie that I saw and I was like, this is an incredible location. So then I just pulled out my phone. I'm getting yelled at, like, put your phone away in a movie theater. And I'm just writing that location for this movie, right? To remind myself. And then I go home and I'll Google it, find the location. And I'm like presenting it to an ad client saying, if we go to Ireland, we can shoot at this beautiful estate called blah, blah, blah. And it has the greenhouse that you want and this. And meanwhile, I saw it in a horror film where people are getting like blood splatter. You know what I mean? They have no idea of that part of it, but I'm just like, this is so beautiful. You know?
Did you write the movie off?
Yeah, right. I know. I should have like expense my movie ticket. Funny.
I expense the movie ticket because I was actually location scouting while I was watching this.
Yeah, totally. It's so true.
Yeah, God, man. Yeah, it's interesting how being in this business, it does kind of screw you for all that other kind of stuff, for sure. All right, I want to know about, well, do you do more motion work or still work?
Oh, it's more still. Yeah. I'll hire the teams for motion and things like that, but it's usually like in addition to the still component of a shoot or behind the scenes or like some visual components that go along with like an ad job or something like that. So it's not like full on production of video shoots, which I can do. And I had some jobs come up for that, but I feel like that's a whole other beast.
Yeah, seems to be.
Yeah. And so I kind of just like don't necessarily gravitate towards those as much because I'm like, it seems like a nightmare.
I would love to get into it because I do small shoots, like small motion shoots, but talk about the bigger ones. I've been on some sets for those and just, it's amazing the kind of work I'm sure it takes to put all that together with that huge team and all that.
The crazy thing to me about it all is that it's like it costs so much more and nobody has budgets nowadays, right? So it costs so much more to do all these like video because you need the gaffer, you need the boom guy, you need all of this. So there's all these like little details that you need. And then what they use of it is like a minute for Instagram.
Oh yeah.
And it's cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars and it's literally for a 1 minute clip. Yeah. And I'm like, this just seems crazy to me.
I was in Budapest shooting some behind the scenes stuff with the catering company on the last Terminator film. And so when I wasn't shooting, I was like hanging out on set watching. I probably was on set watching maybe 4 or 5 hours total out of all the days I was there. But I probably saw 15 to 30 seconds of actual film. that would
Yeah.
actually be on screen time in that 4 or 5 hours that I was, actually on set watching. Yeah, it was.
So much gets cut. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then they do the same thing like 40 times. Like
I
I saw
know.
this chick run and jump and shoot, like run, jump off a thing, turn and shoot, probably 25 times. Yeah, and just for what was going to amount to 2 seconds, maybe three,
And
maybe
you
yeah,
just see
two.
like her foot go up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like
I still haven't seen the movie. I need to go watch the movie so I can figure out what the hell is happening, what I
yeah,
saw.
totally.
I want to know about, okay, I saw something online that you said you're a ghost hunter.
I knew this was gonna come up
Yes,
actually.
I
It's
want to know
actually
about the
funny.
ghost hunting thing because that sounds extremely interesting to me.
Well, it's so funny because I list all like the production glitzy glammy stuff, but then I'm like, oh, also Ghost Hunter. It's on my
Yeah, so
Instagram
that's
bio,
something
right?
I was like, okay, now you have my attention.
I know, exactly. So it's working, it's doing its job. Yeah,
Yes.
no. I mean, since I was like a little kid, I just have always been into like the weird, spooky, supernatural stuff. And I've like when I was younger, I used to play around with Ouija boards, which I think my mom thought I made my house haunted because of it. So she like always blamed me. Anything weird that would happen, she's like, it's you and your Ouija board. I'm like, oh
Hey, I
God.
did have, my agent, Maria
Yeah, yeah,
Avatavale.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so her brother is a psychic medium.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, he did a reading for us. Really cool, like very cool. Like my grandfather showed up, my mother-in-law showed up to talk to my wife, although she spent
Oh,
20 minutes
wow.
talking about my brother-in-law, which my wife was not happy about.
Yeah.
But my youngest daughter just went to college, as
Right.
like literally dropped her off and said goodbye this morning. And I was talking to her Sunday night, and she was like, my brother said, do not let her play with the Ouija board.
Oh my God.
That's the thing, because yeah, evidently that thing's freaky, man.
Yeah, I know. So my mom taught me not to mess with those things at an early age, but I've always just been like interested in it. It's so funny because in high school I was like the little weird goth kid, but I actually surprisingly had a ton of friends. Like I wasn't like the awkward one. I was just like more
Right.
friendly and sociable and like and whatever. But I was like dressed in all black, and I wouldn't do the whole full Manson makeup, but uh, I would just be a little darker. And I used to always get my friends. I would convince them to go with me to the thrift stores. We'd get whatever frilly, lacy shirts we could get, and then we'd go out to some like wooded forest or something, and I would take pictures. So we had like have this like interesting little collection of high school goth photos of myself.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it all plays into like that whole thing. But sometimes I'll like rent out like a place that's supposedly haunted. There's like this place called the Shanley Hotel in upstate New York, and I've actually rented out that entire place because I've got done it with like a group of friends. Like there's like
Yeah.
10 of us, so we each just like take a room and we rent it out. And they have like like paranormal investigators that come there, and that will do like the tour the whole night. And I always like, so while I believe in the supernatural and all this like weird stuff, I always go in with skepticism just because
Yeah.
I don't want to be like fooled or taken advantage of or made a fool out of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I won't believe every thud or creak in the door or whatever. I'll approach it from a rational mind, right? This place is crazy haunted. Like I was just sitting there one time, and like someone was talking about like the spirits or entities or whatever it was that was in that room, and I felt like this tingle in my hair, like almost like someone was like touching my hair like this, right? And I'm trying to process whether or not there's air above me or I walked into like a cobweb, because it kind of had that like cobwebby feeling, right? But I was standing still, so I'm just like, what is this? And then the person that I went with at that same moment was like, something's touching my head. And I was just like, oh my God, me too. And so like at that point, I was just like, okay, that's creepy, but it still could have just been like my nerves or whatever. I'm just trying to
Right.
rationalize everything,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to just like jump to believing that, oh my God, this place is haunted. So then I started buying equipment. Like I was getting like the spirit box that like scans AM or FM stations like super fast. Like it just like scans them rapidly. And then that creates like that weird white noise. And then supposedly like spirits can speak through that, right? So I'm just like, oh, let me get this cool little box, this SP7, whatever it is, box, and use it. So the second time we had rented that place out, we were in this room, and supposedly there's a ghost cat in this
A
room.
ghost cat?
A ghost cat, yes.
Okay.
So there's like a spirit that belongs to that room, and then she has a cat. And so one of our friends, her name is Megan, she was sitting there and she's like leading this session. So I have the spirit box going, my digital recorder going, and we're like talking and we're like, if you want to communicate, let us know. She's like doing this whole thing. And the station just going as it's scanning the AM station super fast and nothing's happening. There'll be like little sounds that would come out every now and then, but it scans it so fast that like if you hear like a couple of words like hello or like yes it's me or whatever it is,
right,
there's no way that it's picking that up from just one of the scans because it's rapidly scanning them, right? So if it's like a sentence like that or a couple of words that are clear, you know that it's like speaking on like whatever frequency that it is. And I've never had that experience. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. So this girl, Megan, is like saying, okay, so I know you guys have a cat. There's a ghost cat here. Is the cat around? Does the cat want to communicate with us? And there's like cat toys in the room. So we're like jingling the cat toy. We're like playing with like a little bit of the thing, like the little feathery thing, whatever it is. And we're sitting there. And all of a sudden, through the spirit box, we hear meow. And this is as it's scanning multiple radio. This is, I swear on my life that this happened. All of us like did this huge like gasp because I like held my mouth because I was just like, that did not just happen. That did not just happen. I was freaking out, but like in the best possible way because I was just like, and my recorder's recording. I have it on the recorder. This is amazing. And so I wrote down like, okay, this is like recording number 17. This is the minute that it was, so I can go back and listen to it later. So at the end of this session, like Megan was just like, okay, thank you so much. I think the ghost's name was Sarah or something. So thank you so much, Sarah, for chatting with us. We really appreciate it. And then she said, we're gonna leave to go to another room. So we left. Anyway, fast forward, I'm listening to the digital recorder and I hear the meow clear as day. So I sent it to one of my friends who was at that group. And I was just like, okay, here's the recording. So he texts me back and he's just like, dude, listen to that recording. I was just like, I know, I just sent it to you. It's amazing. He's just like, no, keep listening, right? And so I was just like, okay, it's nighttime now. I'm in my room, it's dark. I have my headphones in. I'm like, I'm gonna listen to this. So I hear the part with the cat and the meow, and there's like random little scuffles or whatever. And when we speak, we're on a very, like, if you're recording someone speaking, you hear it on a very top layer, right? You hear it into the microphone and whatever. But like, I guess when there's like another, like if there's another entity or whatever it is speaking, it's speaking on that like that sound wave that's a little bit lower, I guess.
Yeah.
The frequency, I guess, is a little bit lower. So the voices aren't as like loud as you and I would be when speaking. It's kind of like an undertone or whatever. So anyway, so I'm listening to it and the girl Megan was like, okay, Sarah, thank you so much for allowing us to chat with you. We had a really good time. And all of a sudden you hear on this other level, it's my pleasure. And like nobody,
really?
There, yeah, because everyone's just continuing to like say, okay, thank you, bye, blah, blah, blah. Like it wasn't anyone in our group. Like it was like so quiet and so close to the microphone, which was like on the floor, or the recorder, sorry. And like we were just having our normal exterior level conversation that you could hear everyone's voices kind of, and then you hear like this whisper, it's my pleasure. Like, and I like freaked out, but like that was like my one like close encounter, I guess, the cat and that like little EVP they're called.
And where was this?
This is in it's called the Shanley Hotel. It's in Napanock, New York. So it's like an 1.5 to 2 hour drive. And you can just go for a ghost tour for like a few hours, or you can stay the night in one of the rooms if you wanted to. It's like super affordable. It's like a fun little thing to do overnight, like on a Friday to Saturday or something. It's like $100-something per night for the rooms. It's like ridiculous.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So I like to like go to different places. Like it's so funny bringing that back to like the photo shoots. It's like when I was left to produce shoots at Martha Stewart, we would go on location for a shoot. Like we got to go to New Orleans once, and I'm like, this is my dream, right? And like my responsibility is to like make sure everyone's accommodated with their flights. We have lodging sorted out. We have like the logistics figured out. So when it comes to lodging, what I do is I'll like Google most haunted hotels in the world. And then I'm like reaching out to like the sales team and saying, hey, we have a big group. Do you have a group rate? And they'll give us a really good deal. And I'm just like, great, we get to stay at a haunted hotel. So I get my needs met and the shoot gets a super, like the budget is happy because
you tell everybody that it's a haunted hotel there.
No, no, not at all.
No.
Of course, no, of course not. Why would I? You know, that takes the fun out of it. But it's really entertaining. Like in the next morning when you're like, "Did you guys hear anything weird last night?" Or like if someone says like, "I just felt weird in my room," and then I'll tell them, "Oh, this is a haunted hotel." So now people know it's like that's my MO. You know what I mean? I'll do like a haunted hotel, so they have to be like they have to be
Do they ask
careful.
ahead of time now? Is this hotel haunted? Because I'm not staying there.
Yeah, I know. Like my one friend, she's just like, Muzam, just book us something that's not haunted, please. I'm like, okay. They're always just like a touch creepy, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Dude, I've only stayed. We had some relatives in this tiny little town called Shiloh, Georgia, which is like a few hours outside of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we stayed in a house where my relatives had that supposedly was there during the Civil War, and some soldier died in one of the bedrooms, and it's haunted by the soldier, and occasionally they hear him or see him or whatever.
Oh yeah,
So I
yeah,
was
yeah.
all excited to spend the night there, and it was my dad, my brother, and myself. Nothing. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Nothing. I was like, all right. Well, that was disappointing.
I know.
So
There's been up times where we've like there's like the Penhurst Asylum or something that's like in Pennsylvania. It was like it's an abandoned like insane asylum that from like a long time ago that was just like left, and you can actually tour it. You can rent it out for the night and do it, and like it's a creepy,
yeah, that I
creepy,
don't know I'm doing.
creepy place. And so like I went there and like we had all kinds of things set up and like nothing happened. It was the most disappointing experience of my life because it had such potential, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like nothing. Meanwhile, this little small hotel in upstate New York, it's just like
You think
stuff
maybe some
happening.
stuff like that is it was haunted, and then they started bringing all these tourists in, and just the ghosts were finally, I've had enough, and just all took off and left.
They're just like, forget this. I think I don't know how it works, but I feel like if they're there, they're kind of stuck there.
That's true. That
But I
could
don't
be.
know. I guess sometimes they just don't appear or make themselves visible or known, and
Yeah.
that's it. But
Maybe they're all napping. They're just tired. Like they'd been very active like the night or two before, and you guys showed up like, I can't do it again.
well, the funny thing is they say it a lot of it depends on like temperature and like also
Really?
like different like the way the barometric pressures work and whatever like that it like charges. It's like electricity or something. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I feel like I've heard that in the past. So who knows?
I don't know, dude. Okay, I'm gonna ask you one last question, then we'll let you
Sure.
go. What's the coolest or strangest thing you've ever done in this business, or just in general, or experience?
Most
All right,
strangest.
we've already heard about the ghost thing, so you can't come up with that again. You gotta
Yeah,
go with
yeah, yeah,
something
yeah, yeah,
else.
yeah. No, 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 no. I was just trying to think of the strangest. Oh man, that's a tough one actually.
And don't forget, some things that seem absolutely normal to you may be totally weird to other people.
Right, 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 right.
Like for me, like I did a shoot, and we were shooting a model, and it's only happened. Well, it actually happened literally 3 weeks ago for the second time in like 15 years, maybe 20 years. The model just dropped her clothes right there and just like started changing. I was like, we're gonna have you try on this. And she's like, just absolutely nothing. And it wasn't like it was a fashion show. We were backstage and there was a place for her to change. She was just, and here's the thing is it wasn't a 20 something year old. It was like a 40, 50 year old.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, the 20-year old, you understand. It's like, yeah, whatever. She's 20 and
Yeah, yeah,
25,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah. It's the 40, 50-year old. Like, okay, that was a little weird.
Oh man, that's like I mean, there's so many like random things that happen on shoots that just are just so normal now. You know what I mean? So it's hard to pinpoint like a specific one. I do have to think about it for a little bit just because I just don't know where to begin. Like I feel like the funny thing is I feel like that Kamalama story was like probably one of my most bizarre experiences.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, just like having to ask someone on the hospital bed, like whether or not we can use their location for a shot is like ridiculous to me. But um, there's just been like, there's like with Kylie Jenner, she was just like, I think she she just wanted to like get out of her clothes on set when we were
Oh
shooting
yeah.
it, and we're like, well, we have to shoot like 1 to 2 minutes of video for each shot. So we have like looks for them. And she's like, okay, so I can take this off. Then I was just like, no, you have to keep these clothes on because we have to get video. She's like, okay, so I can take this off. I'm really, really hot. And she starts pulling off the clothes. And I'm like looking at her assistant. I'm like, help. And she's just like, Kylie, honey, we have to keep this on for just another minute or two. Until she's just like, so then she's like, ah. And so then the videographer comes and then she's all like doing her poses, all like happy or whatever. And then like the second the camera's off, she's like ripping off her clothes, trying to get out of there, which was kind of like ridiculous and funny.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. There was another shoot that we were doing with Martha Stewart. There was like this magazine that it was like this really cool art magazine called A Magazine that like they hired all these different people to like creative direct it at different opportunities or whatever. And this issue specifically was gonna have like Tim Walker and Karl Lagerfeld and all these people involved. And it was about death. And so it was like the entire magazine issue was gonna be in black and white. And so they reached out to Martha and they were like, we want you to plan your own funeral entertaining story. Like if you were to die, what would be your entertaining story for this? And make it black and white. And I'm just like, oh man, this is insane. And so we met about this story so many times. We're like, oh, she's like, we're gonna have black truffles and I'm gonna bring my black horses and we're gonna have like, so it's set like this whole entire like, it was like my dream actually. It was like a gothy tablescape. It was like the most beautiful thing ever. And like we're sitting at one of the meetings and she's just like, I don't know why I have to do this though. She's just like, I'm gonna outlive all of you in this room. I'm just like, wait, what? And she's just like, oh yeah. And it was just like the most, and she meant it. She wasn't joking by any means. She was just like, oh, I'm going to outlive all of you in this room. So I don't know why I'm even, she's just like, I think it's funny that I'm planning my funeral meal right now, but like, or like entertaining story. It was just such a cool story, but it was just so like bizarre, you know what I mean?
Why she was going to outlive everybody, or she just knows she is?
Oh,
was it because I have enough money to pay for all the stuff that's going to keep me alive, kind of a thing?
She was basically trying to allude to the fact that she knew when she was going to die, and it wasn't anytime soon.
Oh, she was going to be 150. I will be 150 when I die, and you all will be dead by then.
Oh,
thank you for doing this.
No, of course.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah. It's been fun chatting with you.